Regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was made as required, indicating that this meeting would take place at the Municipal Building at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 11, 2025.
Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilman Ambarrison. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Amen. Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yeah. Councilman Ambarison?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois? Councilman Karazi?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka?
Here.
Councilmember Potosnik?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Udine?
Here.
Councilman Vasanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
We are to item number 5, commendations and proclamations. We have 3. You can get a copy of the agenda near the clerk. The first one is by Councilman Vasanella, the 2025 Girl Scout Week proclamation.
Is there anyone here from Girl Scouting?
Yeah, there is.
Great. Hello?
It's on.
Okay, it is working. The battery might be running a little low. Is there anybody here from Girl Scouting? Yes, okay. Well, you can wait till I read this and then come up. So, Franklin Township has been blessed with a lot of scouting activities over the decades, and we're thrilled that the Girl Scouting is still thriving in our township. Whereas Girl Scouts of the United States of America is a national organization dedicated to the empowering young girls to become leaders who make a positive impact on their communities. And whereas Girl Scout Week is celebrated annually to honor the legacy of the Girl Scouts and the enduring values of courage, confidence, and character they instill in young girls. And whereas from March 9th to March 15th, 2025, Girl Scout troops across Franklin Township will participate in community service, leadership, development, activities that teach the importance of service to others and personal growth. And whereas Girl Scouts are an integral part of Franklin Township's vibrant community, contributing their time, talent, and energy to make a difference in the lives of others. And whereas the dedicated volunteers, leaders, and families of Girl Scouts of Franklin Township continue to support the mission of the Girl Scouts by nurturing the next generation of women leaders. Now, therefore, we, Philip Kramer, Mayor, and James Vasanella, Councilman of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the entire Franklin Township Council, do hereby proclaim the week of March 9th through 15th, 2025 as Girl Scout Week in Franklin Township, and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and celebrating the accomplishments and contributions of the Girl Scouts and their leaders.
So I'd like to say that being a Girl Scout means to be sisters with other Girl Scouts, and much more to say, we help each other and we help others, and we Girl Scouts will be continuously will be helping others and everyone.
Future Franklin leader in the making here. I'm going to give this to you, and you can, I don't know, here you go. Oh, here. Mayor, would you like to?
filming right now.
I don't mean to embarrass you, but I sense you're very proud. Oh, did you want to take a picture? Okay. Now we need someone to take a picture. Thank you.
Always a photographer in the audience.
Probably do better than us. Okay. And I'm not sure, I'm sure you know the leaders. You can find out the leaders. And what troop are you in so we can tell people if they're interested?
No one can hear on them without the mic.
I was just saying, asking what troop you're in. Oh, you're wearing your, oh, show everyone. 60327 Girl Scout troop. I'm sure you can find them online, Google up Franklin Girl Scouts, but they do a wonderful job. We have a stream cleanup coming up if you want to put in any service hours. I know some of the Scouting USA, which used to be Boy Scouts of America and Girl Scouts, have been there before. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for the volunteers, and I hope you stick with it and keep helping as you have. Thank you so much. Here you go.
Next, we have the 2025 Women's History Month proclamation by Deputy Mayor Udine.
Good evening, everyone. Can you guys all hear me? I want to express my gratitude to all the incredible women who have inspired us, led the way, and worked tirelessly for progress and change. Your efforts are not only shaping the future, but also leaving a lasting mark on history. With that, happy International Women's Day. I have invited, we have 62 between the board members and community members in our township. So I've invited all the women that are part of our wonderful boards and committees. So if you're here today, please join me as I read the proclamation. And as you guys are coming up, I do want to give a shout out to the Franklin Women's Club. Just if you don't know about them, in 2028, Franklin Women's Club will celebrate their 100 years as a federated club for community service and friendships. Franklin Women's Club gives out scholarships for graduating senior girls from Franklin Township and have been their primary focus, as well as supporting our food bank, domestic violence, child abuse prevention, recently the Pollinator and Monarchy Garden project by the gazebo. If you have been to the library, you will notice that the Franklin Women's Club has put out the Women's History display, honoring our World War II 68-88 Battalion of Black women who fixed the backlog of male problem that no one else could solve. So if you're in the library, please make it a stopover to see the bulletin board there. All right, ladies, get over here. Come closer. Whereas March is celebrated as Women's History Month, a time to honor and recognize the vital contributions women have made to society, culture, and history. And whereas Franklin Township recognizes and celebrates the remarkable achievements of women who have shaped our community, state, and nation, as well as those whose names may not be widely known, but whose impact has been profound. And whereas women in Franklin Township continue to inspire and lead across all fields, including education, business, government, healthcare, and the arts, making our community a stronger and more vibrant place to live. And whereas Women's History Month provides an opportunity to reflect on the progress women have made and to acknowledge the work that still needs to be done to achieve gender equality in all areas of life. And whereas we celebrate the strength, resilience, and determination of women of all backgrounds and walks of life, and honor the ongoing efforts to empower women and the girls in our community and beyond. Now, therefore, we, Philip Kramer, Mayor, and Shipa Udine, Deputy Mayor of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey, on behalf of the Franklin Township Council, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2025 as Women's History Month in Franklin Township and encourage all residents to join in recognizing and honoring the achievements and contributions of women in our community and across the world. Thank you. And so I will give you guys each of, I think I have enough. Let me just see. If I don't, I will get you guys more. I can get, I just need one more then, right? Okay. So I'll give you yours tomorrow, okay? Would you like to say a few words? You guys do you want to say a few words? No? Go ahead, say a few words.
Well, thank you, council, and thank you to the residents of Franklin. It's wonderful to be part of a community that recognizes the achievements of women, and certainly Women's International Month is a great time to celebrate all the amazing women of Franklin. And so we, on behalf of all my new friends, I thank you and appreciate this recognition.
And once again, happy International Women's Day to everyone here. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to thank Mayor Kramer, Shipaudin, and I just wanted to say that, you know, this is a celebration of women's progress, but we still have, you know, things remaining in terms of progress. And I also wanted to say that when we uplift, empower each other, we progress more. And also when women thrive, society flourishes.
Thank you. The third proclamation is, I'll probably pronounce it wrong, now Rush 2025 proclamation.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And we have a proclamation for Nowruz. How many of you have heard Nowruz? Then you're going to learn something. Fantastic. Nowruz, the Persian New Year, is an ancient and cherished celebration observed by millions of people around the world, including many of our residents in Franklin Township. And Nowruz makes the first day of spring, symbolizing renewal, growth, and the triumph of good over evil, and is a time for people to come together to celebrate their cultural heritage, strengthen community bonds, and embrace the spirit of hope and harmony. And whereas the celebration of Nowruz spans over 3,000 years and is deeply rooted in the tradition of various ethnic communities, including those of Persian, Central Asia, and Middle Eastern descent, reflecting shared values of peace, unity, and family. And whereas Nowruz is a time for families and communities to gather, enjoy delicious food, engage in cultural practices, and reflect on the blessings of the past year while looking forward to a new year full of promise and opportunity. And whereas Franklin Township, with its diverse and vibrant population, is proud to honor and celebrate the traditions, customs, and contribution of all of its residents, including those who celebrate Nowruz, as they enrich our community and bring us closer together as one united township. And whereas the mayor and council of Franklin Township recognize the importance of embracing cultural diversity and the positive impact that such celebration have on fostering understanding, respect, and inclusion among all residents. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and council of Franklin Township, New Jersey, do hereby proclaim the celebration of Nowruz in Franklin Township and encourage all residents to participate in and support the observance of this important cultural event. I hope you'll learn something. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We are now on to item number 6, public discussion. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We're open to the public. Anyone wanting to speak about anything regarding government is welcome to do so now. 5 minutes of time, may only come up once, no yielding of time. and please state your name and address. Now, you can come up for anything to do with government, but there is going to be a separate public hearing specifically about the fire districts. So you may want to keep your powder dry till then.
Good evening. My name is Alex Clark, and I am at 396 Hamilton Street. I am here to voice my support for ranked choice voting, for a resolution supporting ranked choice voting, and to share some information about some upcoming public events. I volunteer with Voter Choice NJ, which is a nonpartisan grassroots organization advocating for State Bill S1622 and A4042. This bill would enable ranked choice voting in local elections. If passed, local officials and voters could adopt ranked choice voting if they choose to elect their mayor, council, and school board members. For anyone not familiar, ranked choice voting is a voting process that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference, ensuring that the winner has broad support from the electorate. Voters can choose their first, second, third preference candidates and so on. And when votes are counted, if your first preference receives too few votes, your vote is transferred to your second preference. And this goes on until there is a majority winner. I support ranked choice voting because it improves the voter experience and eliminates the need for strategic voting. Right now, many districts and states tend to vote with a predictable outcome, and this causes voters to feel like their vote doesn't matter, or they may feel like they don't need to vote because their district or state seems to always vote in their favor or otherwise. Many voters become disengaged and they stop participating. As a result, we see many elections with very low voter turnout. We also hear concerns about the spoiler effect, in which votes become split between candidates with similar ideals, thereby helping the opposition win with a plurality. This year we have an important gubernatorial election, and for example, right now there are 6 candidates in the upcoming Democratic primary. For me personally, there are 2 candidates that I'm enthusiastic about, and at least one other that I would vote for. In our current system, if the candidate I vote for wins only a small percentage of the vote, my vote will basically be meaningless. It won't count for much. Out of a field of 6 candidates that we currently have in that primary, we could end up with a winner who gets only 20% or 30% of the vote. With ranked choice voting, the candidate with the fewest votes gets removed, and their votes are transferred to the next preference until we have a winner with more than 50% of the vote of support. A candidate with 51% support better represents us than a candidate with just 20%. Another example, I've often heard people say about a particular candidate, they really like the candidate, they love the candidate, but they don't want to vote for them because they don't think that that person can win. So they end up voting for the safer choice even if it isn't their preference. With ranked choice voting, this decision is easy. You can vote with your heart as your first preference, and then vote strategically with your second preference, or vice versa. You don't have to worry so much that your vote isn't going to really count. Your vote is more likely to stay in play. I'm asking if you would consider introducing a resolution in support of S1622 and A4042. Several towns in New Jersey have already passed measures in favor of state-enabling legislation for local ranked choice voting. Voter Choice NJ can work with you if you need more information or if you have questions. We can send you literature and example resolutions that have passed in other towns. And Voter Choice NJ also organizes educational events to the public, which you can attend to learn more. There are a few upcoming events over the next week, including one in Edison this Thursday. That's a couple of days away, March 13th at 7 p.m. And I have information on that, which I can share with you. And for more information, you can also visit, and to RSVP, you can visit voterchoicenj.org/events. And if you are able to attend any of these events, which I hope you are, please introduce yourself to the organizers. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? You don't have to raise your hand. You just come right up.
Hi, my name's Lydia Lacey. I live at 1036 Canal Road in Griggstown. And I'm here to just voice my support for allowing backyard chickens in Franklin Township. And where we live, we've lived here 3 years, and our house came with chickens. And we are actually zoned for, I can't remember, but we're allowed to have chickens. And I've never had chickens in my life. I liked the idea of eggs, and but I didn't know anything about chickens. It's been so much fun. There's a learning curve. It took a while, but I've raised 2 children. It's certainly easier than children. I would say it's easier than cats and dogs, too, just different. But cats and dogs, cats earn their living a little, but dogs really don't. No, I've had a dog, I can say that. But, it's so much fun. We get over a dozen eggs a day. It's a little work. It's sort of akin to if you've ever had taken a guinea pig home from school, where you have to kind of clean out the bedding in the morning and stuff. Although guinea pigs, really, they're not chickens. They're not fun. But, I meet my neighbors. I almost always have eggs with me. I have eggs with me right now, and I give them to people. It's like giving people flowers. We have a ton of eggs. We have blue eggs and brown eggs, and I think it would be nice if everybody has the option to have chickens. And roosters are chickens, and I understand roosters might be a different deal, but just hens who lay eggs, and they're nice. So I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Donna Lisi, 12 Lyndhurst Drive, Somerset, New Jersey.
You have to speak into the mic, please.
Hi, Donna Lisi, 12 Lyndhurst Drive, Somerset, New Jersey. I appreciate the former residents' enthusiasm for chickens. I just do want to caution, I'm chair of the Board of Health Advisory Council for Franklin Township. I do want to caution that one of the sources of
Please address the council.
One of the sources of avian flu has been backyard chickens and backyard poultry. So with that note, please just be careful. One of the first signs of avian flu is conjunctivitis. Right now, it's a type A flu, so you would test positive for type A flu. So if anyone tests positive for type A flu and has as a predominant symptom conjunctivitis, that's some of the key things. So like I said, the backyard chickens are infected by the wild birds. And around here, we have a lot of wild birds that are waterfowl, so they can bring it to flock. So if you do that, just be a word of caution. Thank you.
Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. So it may be a surprise to some of you that I am actually a big fan of quiet and peace. So I get up early in the morning, and it makes me astutely aware of the ambient noise around Franklin. There's a distinct difference between 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and 8, 9, 10. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Especially in the 4th Ward, 5th Ward, there's a lot of ambient noise all the time. You have cars with no mufflers and all that. There's a lot going on there. And I've come to the conclusion reading this that you really should not have chickens on anything R15 or less, which is 15,000 square feet. Okay? Do you agree with me, Vince?
Excuse me. No.
Anyway, and then looking at the roosters, I want to know, is there a fine if you have a rooster? Because some people get roosters by accident. It's not, you don't, like, you may get a chicken, think you're getting a hen, but you actually get a rooster. So the question is there a fine for a rooster? And if you get one by accident, how do you dispose of them? Because you specifically say that you can't kill it on your own property. So the question is what do you do with the rooster? Because I know if you can't, like if you have a stray cat, you can't just kill it. You have to give it a 6-month waiting period or something like that. So the question is how do you treat the rooster once it's there? I think that's it. Thank you.
The rooster paradox. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay.
I won't be speaking about chickens. I am a part of Somerset County. I live.
Name and address.
I'm getting ready to say
Here
it.
you
My
go.
name is Takora Dumay. I live at 1621 Amwell Road, right across from Dahmer. I'm the White House with the red door. This was how people remember me. And I am a troop member, part of Troop 60327. I am not a Girl Scout now, but once was long ago. And these 3 young ladies are a part of our troop. So they wanted to introduce themselves, and we wanted to say thank you for honoring Girl Scouts. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a different scene for them, but it's an opportunity for them to know that the work that they do as a Girl Scout is recognized, and that for them, it's a badge of honor, right, to be able to be recognized in such a way. So we wanted to say thank you and let you know that we're going to continue to work and hopefully bring on more Girl Scouts in years to come. And we hope that for them, this is an opportunity to see that they do have an impact on a much larger scale. So they wanted to introduce themselves and say thank you.
Excuse me one second. If you're under 18, you don't have to give your last name and you don't have to give your address.
Hi, my name is Taylor. Thank you. Hi, my name is Taylor. I'm a junior. I've been in Girl Scouts for 2 years, and I just want to thank you guys for giving us the chance to be here today.
Hi, I'm Nithya, and I've been part of Girl Scouts. I'm really new to it, and
She did excellent earlier, so we're good.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I am my second year as a Girl Scout. I'm a cadet, and thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Not seeing anyone coming forward, Mayor, I'll motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Address public comments. We'll be addressing chickens quite a bit later. Ranked choice voting. Does anyone have any comments on that?
I honestly don't know all the ins and outs, pros and cons. I've heard it, of course, and I know they do it in certain parts of the country. I assume the legislature would have to do that, but I will look into and develop my thoughts on it. But honestly, right now, I couldn't say whether I would be totally in favor or not of it. But thank you for bringing this or any concern you have to us.
Yeah, I haven't done the math on it yet, but it's something we should consider. That and chickens. Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
I do. To address Mr. Connell's question about what happens if someone has a rooster, I believe, Mr. Connell, you have a copy of the ordinance in front of you? If you do, and you look at the very last paragraph of that proposed ordinance, I believe it will tell you exactly what the penalty is for a violation of any portion of said ordinance.
And then in addition, there's some community groups as well. Facebook has a group called Roos to Rehome, where folks post pictures of their roosters. Often if you're hatching your own, 50% chance that it's going to be a rooster. Most folks don't want them, but a lot of folks do. I won't tell you who in town gets my roosters when I have them. But there's a lot of folks that are willing to take them.
And I believe we have a number of farms in Franklin Township that have chicken flocks that would also have roosters on a working farm.
Correct. The person I give it to is a farmer.
The penalty is the general penalty for the township, so any violation of the ordinance would result in that penalty being enforced via a summons and an appearance in municipal court.
So we have a lot of people here about the fire district budget, and I don't know if they want to sit through 45 minutes of council comments. Do we have a motion to amend the agenda to move that up?
I would motion to move that forward to present is when you think, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I would then motion to have it the next item.
Second.
Moved in second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion is carried. So we're going to skip on ahead to item number 14, calendar year 2025, Fire District number 4 budget. So the budget failed, therefore it comes as just as if back in the day when school board budgets failed, it comes before the council to make a determination of what to do. Now, Councilmember Potasnik is in the first, councilman for the first ward, and he's done quite a bit of work studying the issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on him first, then I'm going to let members of Franklin's Fire District 4 to come up here to the table and give us their thoughts, and then we'll have South Brunswick Fire District 3. Are there representatives here from there? Okay. Then you'll be able to come up and give your thoughts so that council is fully informed when we make a decision. Oh, you're right. And then we open it up to the public after the 3 entities speak. Council member.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of other thank yous to Township Manager Vornlocker for his help, and the mayor, as well as the rest of folks that had a chance to look at this. I also want to start out by saying thank you to our firefighters, both volunteered and paid, and folks that work as fire commissioners, both in Franklin Township in District 4 and also in South Brunswick in District 3. Appreciate everything you guys do. It's an unusual circumstance to be in this position, not extraordinary, like it never happens. But I will say what we did was look very carefully at the budgets and also the contract, as well as the ratables, the assessments, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to walk you through sort of all of the numbers. It's sort of an orientation, so we're all on the same page, both for council and for the public. And you know, this is not really an emotional thing as much as a numeric calculation. So just so folks understand, and ensuring that there's good, strong fire coverage is a number one priority. Safety and security of our residents is critical, but costs have to be shared fairly. So if we take a look here, just so folks have an orientation, there are a number of fire districts in Franklin. I'm going to use the laser pointer for far away. Oh, you can't see it on the screen. Okay, well, I'll do it this way then. Backup plan. So this is Fire District 4 right here. Just north of it is Fire District 2. It's a large district. And let's see if I click, what happens? If I do that? Okay. This is the South. This is Franklin. So if you don't know the shape of Franklin, and this is South Brunswick, and this is South Brunswick. What's marked here is Kingston Fire District. South Brunswick Fire District 3. So I sort of match these up so you can get a sense of the sort of geography. But geography doesn't tell the whole picture. Folks who know Fire District 4 know it's a residential community. It's quite quaint. It used to have PJ's. Now it's got Tino's Pizzeria, which is great, brick oven pizza. I get 10% of the profits now. No. And then this is a blow-up of the Kingston Fire District. So it's kind of hard to see any roads here, but those of you who have been in the area for some time recognize this road. This is Route 1. Route 1 cuts right through South Brunswick's Fire District 3. We know that along Route 1, there are a lot of big, I would say, commercial spaces that are more costlier or have higher assessments for taxes and values. And closer you get to that sort of area, business parks and things like that. So if you don't know the community exactly, you can get a sort of a sense of it. You're welcome to look at the Google Maps or what have you for it. These are the results of the fire election themselves. The budget failed 75% to 25% yes. The levy cap exceeding that was a failure as well at 56% to 44%. The actual vote count was 6 noes for the budget, 2 yeses for the budget. 1 voted yes and no, so it was not counted. And then for the levy cap, there was a no and a yes. 5 noes and 4 yeses. It also failed. So the total rejected budget for the fire district that was presented to voters was $85,395. What are shared services? So according to the contract with between South Brunswick and Fire District 4 in Franklin, from 2020 to 2023, Section 4 states how the charges would go. Franklin shall pay to South Brunswick a percentage of the capital and operating budget of South Brunswick for the current fiscal year of this agreement, excluding administrative expenses, as determined by the ratio of applicable ratables for Franklin to those of South Brunswick, adjusted to reflect 100% true value as determined by the state of New Jersey. In 2024, I'll point this out, the adjusted to reflect 100% of the true value as determined by the state of New Jersey, it's an important clue, and it will come back to it, okay? In 2024, the language was shifted a little bit. It said Franklin Township shall pay South Brunswick a negotiated and mutually agreed upon payment, excluding administrative expenses. I'm not sure, we didn't go back further than 2020, but I highlighted there the adjusted to reflect the 100% true value as determined by the state of New Jersey. So the history of that shared agreement between Franklin and South Brunswick. In 2020, the contract cost was $50,230. In 2021, it was $52,000, sort of estimated. There was some adjustments that had to be made. It was a 4% increase. So history kind of helps tell a little bit of a picture. In 2022, it jumped to $58,943. It was a 13% increase. Sort of a one-time expense in there. My understanding is washing equipment for the heavy duty of fire protection clothing. In 2023, the number went down to $57,720. That was a 2% drop. And in 2024, it was $59,360, a 3% increase. And that was negotiated by the term of that fourth one. In 2025, it was presented at $75,688.88, a 27.5% increase. So one might suspect that this 27.5% increase got some of the voters kind of a little off guard, right? If you take the 2020 to 2024, the average is about 4% per year of an increase, just to give you a sense. Then thanks to Manager Vornlocker, he went through South Brunswick's budget and pulled out the items that Franklin and South Brunswick fire districts share. They don't share every single expense. Some things are just for them, right? Some things are just for us, but actually not a lot of those. And when you total all of those items up, you come up with $756,888.80. Traditionally, there had been a 10% application based on a rateable calculation attributed to Fire District 4 in Franklin. So the 10% of that number, as South Brunswick presented, it was 75,000, et cetera, the number I presented before. We were able to make one correction, which was in the detailed budget that was provided to South Brunswick. This item here, firefighter equipment for $150,000, was actually reduced to $75,000. So you'll see that piece there. So when you do that math, you back out the $75,000 because it's 150, 75 twice. Take out 75 to get back to 75, and the adjusted amount for that with the reduced fire equipment is $681,880.80. If you did 10%, it'd be $68,188.88. But that's not the whole picture, right? Because it's the 100% valuation fair share, adjusted to reflect 100 true value as determined by the state of New Jersey. So luckily, the state of New Jersey, each county comes up with these county equalization tables for your assessments. So some towns like Franklin, we assess every single year. We change our assessments. Folks got little, I think they're green, they might be a different color this year, in the mail, and they say, oh, my evaluation went up some amount. That's the price it's supposed to be that a willing buyer would pay. And in Franklin Township, because we do it every single year, our evaluation is near 100%. It's actually over, 101.55%. So on average, we're overvalued, which is still pretty close. That's the story there, 101.55. In South Brunswick, they have a similar table in Middlesex County. And that shows, for South Brunswick, that they run really short of what the sale price would be in their assessment. I don't want to get into too much numbers here, but it doesn't matter so much in the town because how you're paying your percentage share, et cetera. But when you go outside, this equalization table helps. So that's 36.72% of the actual value of the property. Okay? So you do some math. Franklin was assessed Fire District 4. The total value of the properties in there is $98,807,800. When you actualize that lower, because it was assessed higher, 1.55%, that drops to $97,299,655. Similar types of math for South Brunswick, Fire District 4, at $592,443,000, and there's a zero missing there, dollars. Now, they evaluate less. So when you do the math, it becomes a larger number. That larger number is 1.6 billion and change. When you add up the two numbers and take the Franklin percentage of the total amount, that number is not 10%. Franklin's rateable share is 5.7%. Okay? So from there, just to give a sense, South Brunswick's total fire budget was $844,930. It was actually down for South Brunswick homeowners 4% in 2024. So we go back to the budget table here, where we look at the total number of the Franklin share of the budget, $681,888.80. We apply that 5.7%, and we come up with Franklin's share based on the rateable assessment at 100% of the shared budget with South Brunswick Fire District 3, and that's $38,867.66. Okay? Now, there are some expenses in the budget that are not the shared service agreement. Those are constant and unchanged. And so we go back here, sort of, this number here would have been the 10% number. This was the proposed 10% number with the extra fire equipment. And then this is the actual number based on the rateable equalization. All math, all fair, all pretty much standard practice. So the recommended budget then for Fire District 4, as I see it and recommending to council, is $48,573.66, which is a savings of 43%. So it seemed like to me, members of council, that the voters in Fire District 4 were onto something. And that is that there was an unequal equalization that we were able to address here with math. So that's my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Representatives of Fire District 4, Franklin. Would you like to come up?
Thanks. Was it clear? Can you hear me?
Yeah. So, I don't know if you have something prepared or not, but that was the money side. The other thing to consider, of course, the more important thing is the safety side. So you're going to have a lot, if we were to pass this, you would have a lot less money available to pay South Brunswick Fire District 3. They might say no. What would your alternatives be?
Well, alternatives would initially be...
Right into the mic.
You got to get really close.
Okay, is that good? Initially, what we would have is that we're under a shared service agreement with the Township of South Brunswick, but it's also on a mutual aid agreement. So Kingston Fire Department will respond to Princeton, will respond to other areas, as well as those other areas will respond to us. In the short term, we would still have the coverage that we would need. We have a volunteer fire department. I can't speak for the chief, but I can say that most of the residents that are volunteer fire department that live in either the Kingston or the South Brunswick side are not going to not respond to their neighbor's fire. We have the same agreements that would then have the Little Rocky Hill, and Montgomery, and all, perhaps even Princeton, to be able to respond to us. The response times in those conditions would be very similar to what we have now. Right now, we have a shared service agreement where if a fire department has to come from Monmouth Junction, it could take them 11 to 25 minutes to get to Kingston. We're 4 minutes away from Little Rocky Hill. What we want is the best thing that we can provide to our residents. And we have the amount of money that we can allocate based upon what the fine work that our council workmen has performed and found that we have been overpaying. Now, we've gotten great service. We don't get many calls. The fire department has been outstanding. They're a center of our township. We would hate to lose their ability, but to respond to items within Kingston on the Franklin side, if we don't have the agreement with South Brunswick District 3, would be up to how South Brunswick District 3 wants to respond to us. With the agreement, they could have just the volunteer firemen come to us. They could have the paid volunteer fire departments come, but that's solely up to their discretion, and I'm glad they're here to be able to discuss how they would handle it, because we can't speak for them. We are a service recipient, basically an outsourced contract from the residents of Franklin Township in Kingston to the South Brunswick Fire Department in District 3. So to answer your question, we've had some initial discussions over the last few months. We have the $48,000 that are in our budget. There are other fire departments that we can take that money to, and that money can be paid for a per diem fire department full-time employee that may be able to sit in a firehouse that they're not sitting in right now. So it's really, the next step is, once you've made the decision, you've come to the understanding of what is the fair amount, it's up to us to get that money applied to get to the coverage that we need, and that we can sit across the table from our neighbors and say, this is what we've got, and it's is good or better than what we have now. And I can't say it can be better, because the fire department in Kingston for over 100 years have been a part of our community. It's a shame if we have to walk away from it and be looked upon as they're on the other side of the border, mere feet away from their fellow citizens. So I don't know much more how I can say this, or what we can say at this point, Mayor, but we need to have fire protection. We have professionals who work in that area who are not going to not come here because the bill isn't going to be paid. They put their life on the line every day. They're not going to let us down. But what we want to make sure is it's fair to the taxpayers.
So for those viewing, volunteerism is down from what it was years ago. And the problem, at night, there's really not a problem. The volunteers will show up. But during the day, they may be working the way things are now, 40 miles away, an hour's drive away. So some of the fire companies are covering that by getting paid workers during the day. And that's part of the issue here, is will the paid workers respond? Anyone else want to?
Hi, I just want to give context in terms of the numbers, in case you're curious. In 2023, we had 23 alarms. That includes smoke and regular alarms in our side of Kingston. And in 2024, it was down to 22. So there is just a handful of alarms on our side, just to give context for how much traffic there really is in our side. Also, I want to just point out that in our contract, which ends with South Brunswick March 31st, there is a portion of it that extends for 60 days. So if South Brunswick District 3 does not accept the amount, we have 60 days by contract to find another district or house to do our coverage. And we've reached out to other districts, if necessary, to make the additional contracts for that.
Thank you.
And to go back to your point about the person in the house.
Microphone.
To go back to your point, Mayor, about the person in the house, that's where I think some of these funds would go to if we do look at, let's say, a house that does not have a full-time employee there during the day, is to go to them and say, make the deal with us, and we will provide you enough at a per diem basis that you can have someone sitting in that firehouse waiting to respond. So there are some contingencies that we have thought about. Unfortunately, we've had to think about them. We don't want to move away from the firehouse, but if we have to be fair to the taxpayers, and if we can get the same level of service for the less cost, then we have to do that in the best interest of our community.
Okay. Any other comments?
Sorry. Just for clarification also, in the contract for the Kingston Firehouse, they're not allowed to do a contract with anyone except for South Brunswick District 3. So we can, we can't actually bypass District 3 and do a direct agreement with the firehouse itself.
Any other council members have questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Okay. Thank you very much for all the work you've done. Thank you very much, and giving us the opportunity to speak here tonight. Thank you.
You bet. South Brunswick District 3. Yeah. It's a place of honor.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting tonight. Steve Montebianco, I'm Chairman, South Brunswick Fire District 3. The numbers that you used are erroneous. I just want to put to start. So where you did the 10% has been off the table a year. So I thought it was interesting that you brought the itemized in to justify, then brought the 10% back in to justify. That's voodoo math. Voodoo math. We've been very, I said, accommodating to the district. And you can't go by number of calls. If there's a fire, there's a fire. As you know, volunteerism's down. Most companies cannot roll a truck during the day. They don't roll trucks during the night. We're suffering with that in our district right now, and we're looking at making changes to correct that. We brought in full-time employees. We had budget issues, so we have a shared service agreement with the other South Brunswick fire companies to share that. So we have professional paid crews on during the day that do respond into a cross based on our contract. But we're not here, we're the commissioners, we're not running firematics. That's the chief's job and who we contract with. So I want to be clear, there's a lot of talk about who's responding. That's the chief's responsibility. We're to ensure that the service in our township and our taxpayers get the service they need. But I want to go back to the numbers there. When we negotiated this contract this year, there was talk, well, who pays legal, who pays this? We have a service contract. Our overhead is our overhead. Our costs are our costs. We were able to say, listen, get off the 10%, we'll do a negotiation. Because if we did the 10%, they'd be paying a lot more. So you can use the 10% and then use the itemization later. It just doesn't work. The other challenge is that there are other expenses that we've been very accommodating to concerning radios, things that are on the horizon that your Franklin and the district has failed to address that we're creating potential liabilities for our district. And we're very clear, we don't believe it's fair for our taxpayers to subsidize folks outside our district. I'm speaking as a commissioner. Fire service, say if someone's need, trucks roll, put a fire out, that's great. But the challenge right now of getting more paid firefighters, increased expenses, and if you look at the budget, I mean, I haven't seen a district budget go down anywhere in New Jersey. So this started 2 years ago when the district got a lower budget and put us in a bind, and now we're here today. So again, I want to go back to your numbers. If you straight line it, I don't know where you're itemizing from. Don't know who you gave the information about equipment cost. That's totally wrong. There was no bump in any budget for that the taxpayers in Franklin had to pay for additional equipment. That's untrue. That's untrue.
Hi, Al Kesh. I'm the treasurer for South Brunswick Fire District 3.
Yeah, speak a little louder, please.
Sure. The only comment that I have is we'd like to see the presentation that you've provided so that we can look at the numbers and really evaluate that and provide some sort of response.
Give the clerk your email, or you can email her tomorrow, and
Sure,
she'll send it right out.
It would have been nice to have it before. We could probably have a better discussion.
Well, you did have them before because they're your numbers. They're your numbers. That's all public information.
Your math equation, if we had that before, we could have, again.
It's public math. It's not secret math. It's not voodoo math. It's literally just math.
You're using itemization here. You're taking things out of this equation, but going back to 10%. There is no 10%.
Do you recognize this, either of you?
But there's no, the 10% you're talking
That's not the
about
question.
doesn't exist in this contract.
Okay. Do you recognize this document? Board of Fire Commissioners,
Sure.
Fire District 4.
So
Did you create this document?
What are you taking out of this document that Franklin should not be paying for?
Did you create this document?
The treasurer did, and the board, yes.
Is this your document? You did, okay. Maybe I'd zoom in on this box right here. I can color it yellow. What is that number? 10%. You created a document that called out items at 10%. And you're saying it's old and inaccurate and voodoo math. And I take objection to it. I don't know you, but it's pretty unusual. So
It's in the contract, though. That's not a contract. Does the contract say 10%?
Okay, anyway.
No.
I just,
attorneys here, if it's not in the square, Judge Duty, if it's not in the square,
So-
it doesn't.
yeah, I'm just going to tell you that it's not voodoo math. These are numbers you provided. It's nice if you wanted them in advance. They're your numbers.
But that 10% equals $48,000 or $43,000? What's the 10% based on our document? If you're going to use that 10% in the document, what's the number in that document?
Show the green block.
Okay.
Let's see it. Scroll down.
When you go down,
Scroll down.
okay, I understand.
No, scroll down.
It doesn't help if you keep saying what I'm going to do. I know what you want me to do, okay? Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. So if you'll notice how I did it here, it's a little harder, but in each case here where there was, I'll just explain it to you because it seems like it's important. Item 11, line 11, as you presented, these are your numbers. In 2025, the total cost for this contract with KV Fire Department is $100,000. 90% share for District 3 is $90,000 and change for District 4. So in this case, District 4 has a share of it. It's unusually, but we were able to determine from the numbers that were provided in row 17 that $12,000 was the budgeted number, but since it's ghosted here, you'd think it didn't apply. In this case, you took the total amount and then did 90% here and 10% there. So again, 10% applied to that number. And in every case where you see black numbers, those numbers are shared numbers, okay? As I scroll down in line 46, $16,000, it's a red number. The red number indicates it's not a Kingston, Franklin Fire District 4 number. So you'll see 16,000. The whole share of that is in in Fire District 3. None of it is in this other box here for Fire District 4. Similarly, in the next line, $500 and $2,600 only applies to South Brunswick. And we can continue on and on and on, but I think you can see that's pretty consistent. Then in row 53, at $20,000, just a South Brunswick expense. And I can keep going line by line, but this is your numbers, and I just pulled them from there with the help of the manager to proofread it and the mayor. 58, same item. We can go down to 62, same thing. And then over here in 66 and 67, also 100% share of South Brunswick.
Those were taken out, those 42,000
It doesn't matter. Either way, it doesn't add up.
Oh, it does matter, because that.
You'll see. You'll see.
Fire company.
Okay.
Those go to the guys who are getting on the truck putting fires out, and you want to take that out?
Well, so if you look, so, okay, let me,
looking.
okay. Relax, take a breath.
One at a time.
Line 66. Are you saying that the 25 number that you provided, 42,000, should have been split 90-10?
There's no 90-10. I don't know where you're getting 90-10.
It's literally on this paper. It says right here.
Paper is not the contract.
Okay. So let me just ask the question again.
Away from that.
All right.
We walked away from the 10%.
Okay, let me ask a question. Maybe ask the treasurer. Is it better to ask a question for him? So in line 62, no, actually, line 66, this line here, for the length of service award program, is that a 100% South Brunswick expense that wouldn't be shared or passed on to Kingston Fire District 4? Okay, so well, nonetheless, this is the numbers you presented, so now you're, so, yeah, these are the numbers you provided, you said that, so if it's not and someone doctored it, we'll figure it out. Let me, you said you wanted to see.
You're going back to a contract that doesn't exist.
This isn't a contract, this is just math.
But you're saying, but you use 10% as a number, as it means something.
No, you used 10% in the spreadsheet, that's why I referred to it. We did not use 10%, we used 5.7%.
It's very.
You asked me to step in, and then maybe I'll explain it to you. You allocated the money 90-10. That's just what you did in the budget. In all due respect, I don't really care what the contract says. What you did in your budget is you allocated it. Yeah, but if the contract, look, I am, and not only am I an attorney, I'm a pretty good attorney because I can understand this math. If your budget allocated it 90-10, and the contract had a narrative about how you were going to allocate it, I'm not sure what that means, but your budget allocated it 90-10, and we're only here to worry about the budget. So if you tell me that the contract doesn't have a percentage in it, that's fine, but the budget does have a percentage in it. It's 90-10. And I think the point that the councilman was trying to make in his presentation is that based upon the average, based upon the assessed value of the two units, the number should have only been 5.5%. And that's the point that we're trying, and that's the only point we're trying to make.
Yeah,
So that's the long and the short of it.
Those numbers were put up in a slide tonight without giving, again, what I'm a little concerned about, this council is trying to negotiate on behalf of the other district. We should have had these numbers before, as our treasurer said.
So your treasurer is here, though.
So can I ask you a question?
I'll just make a point of order.
What is your rationale for the budget that you gave to the district?
We looked at our cost of services, right? We have paid firefighters now, we're having more challenges getting volunteer trucks out the door. Overhead is up, the cost of doing business is up, insurance is up. This is New Jersey, everything is more expensive.
We understand that.
So I'm trying to figure out a logical way.
Councilmember, I can answer your question.
Yes.
It's 10%.
Well, I wanted him to answer that.
I know, but it's 10%.
But the 10% doesn't even matter. That's an example.
Well,
What we're saying is we pick from, what we did was we figured out which services were shared. We add those up, and then we applied 5.7% because that's the equalized assessment ratio. That's, the 10% is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It's.
I agree. So let's go back to your document.
Okay, hold on, hold on, stop.
Wait,
You need to hold on, because you asked a question I'm still answering, and all your interruptions led to all the side stuff. Yes, you did. If we roll back the tape, if we had a court reporter, it would say, show me where you grabbed those numbers, and that's what I was doing. I was running through line by line.
The numbers you took out, that's the ones I'm talking about.
Sir, no numbers
I'm
were
still
taken
answering
out.
your basic question. So if you have further, maybe to write them on a pad, and we'll get to them one at a time. So in line 80, 81 rather, what I did is I added up column E, which is the 100%. That means full cost of the items that were applicable for Fire District 4 in Franklin Township. The ones that are not red, the ones that are black. When you do that, you come up with this number. Oops, that's my math. Not voodoo math, actual math on a computer. $681,888,080. You can check my work. Two colleagues have done that. And excuse me, I'm in the wrong column here. And that gives you the total amount. When you apply 5.7%, which is the rateable equalized share, that's publicly available. You could have done that math. You chose not to do that math, but you could have done it. We did.
Don't say when I chose not to. We sat down.
Well, you said you
Fire
did.
District
Okay, nonetheless. So
4, and we went through their
that's where the.
variables.
Okay, I'm sorry for saying you chose not to. Did you do it?
Yes, we did. We sat down with the.
You did the math to get to 5.7?
Not, 5.7 is a number that we didn't use. We used the combined rateables and then we did a split. But I'm gonna go back-
Did you,
I'm gonna go back to your red lines again.
excuse me, did you equalize the ratables? Did you equalize them to 100%?
Do you understand the way these contracts work? I'm serious. Do you understand the way fire service contracts?
Sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Anyway, that's where we came up with the math.
No, because it's obvious you're not. You don't.
Are
I
they
wanna go
different,
back to- you
are
took
they
the
different than
contract.
other contracts?
Excuse me?
Are fire district contracts somehow different than other contracts?
No, but if you look at the contracts, it's pretty much, we'll pay a party X for X services.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go through this document, you took numbers out, that if you took the numbers out, they can't deliver the services. LoSAP, salaries for the district, how do we run the district without paying people to run the district? It's a cost, it's a service contract. We decided and agreed with the other district to take the itemization out.
The way you do
We
it,
took it out.
the way you do that is you put in the proper budget, and then this is a discussion about who pays what piece of the pie. It's not a discussion about how much money you need. It's a discussion about who pays what piece of the pie.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I have 1 second?
Excuse me. If I'm a computer contractor with the township, are you gonna sit there and say, what is my rent, you're gonna say no. You wanna keep my computers up and running, we're gonna pay X amount of dollars, X amount of hours.
Okay, so stop there. So if you can, so stop there. So stop there. So that's a computer contract and that's for the town. But if we decided to share it with South Bound Brook, and we decided that we would allocate the cost for that contract based upon our assessed value, we would take their assessed value and our assessed value and come up with a percentage, and we would pay our percentage and they would pay theirs. When we do that, it should be 95-5, and you're doing it 90-10, and that's the issue.
So where in the contract does it say we're gonna do assessed value? No, that's not a contract.
No, I'll show you the contract as well. But right now, I'm going to show you.
Microphone.
This is your document.
Microphone, Mr.
For the wonderful viewers at home.
This is actually your document as provided by your fire district to fire district number 4. Do you
This
see
is
that?
not the budget was
Then I also have the budget on my computer if you'd like to look at that. Every number in this column called 2025 budget that equates to a 10% payment in the District 4 column on this was compared to your budget as posted on your website by me. Council member, could you please put up my document that I provided you today with the proofing of your math?
Oh, sorry.
Could you please post that?
Could you read this? Could you read
So I'm talking now.
He likes to
Now
do
is my
distracting questions, so we got to stay on
Now
one
is my
thread at a time. We can get you a pad and a pen if it helps.
Could you please post that?
You want to go back to mine?
My document that I provided to you this morning.
I don't. This one? Yeah. Bob shared.
That, yes, that one.
I did a little color.
Every line on that spreadsheet equates to an equal dollar amount line in your budget as posted on your website It also is the same exact number that's in this spreadsheet on my computer that I'm showing you now. The total for the 10% column identified for district number 4 equals $75,688.88, which is the number that proved out on my math as done when I did the comparison of this document provided to district number 4 at the end in December of 2024 and your budget that was introduced and posted on your website that's still available there now. Those numbers are the same. And the numbers that are the same are the equivalent of 10% of each budgetary item that you identified in this document provided to district number 4 and identified it at 10%. You also identified it at 14.6%. The 14.6% is the ratio if you actually utilize the assessed values in South Brunswick as provided by the assessor from South Brunswick, which is an incorrect, as the council member said, is an under percentage number when you compare it to the 100% value that your shared service agreement references in 2020, 21, 22, and 23, which says that it will be at 100% market value. I believe that's the wording.
That was the slide I had put
The
back
number
up.
that was adjusted, the only number that was adjusted to get from the 56,000 number to the 661 or whatever is that in your budget, contrary to this spreadsheet that you provided to district number 4, you budgeted $75,000 for capital expenditures, whereas you identified the capital expenditure budget as $150,000 in this document that you provided to district number 4. So the number was reduced from the 600 and some odd thousand by 75,000 to make the correction to the equation. So you can shake your head no, but that's, so when you say that it's not your budget, it is exactly your budget as verified by me this morning.
Okay, what you're using is a document we use in negotiation with the district.
And that's the number you provided.
The 14% is the number that they brought to the table with us when we looked at the ratables. So again, if you go back to 2024, the contract is based upon mutually agreeable. The fire district negotiated with us in good faith on that amount.
Let me ask a question, 2 questions. I think those will sum it up. It'll probably be the last questions. 1, do you have a mutually agreeable number right now?
We had one. What's the number we agreed with them? We had a mutually agreeable number, which was lower than that 75,000.
For 2025?
2025.
Which the,
Yeah.
Bill, you gotta use
Wait.
the microphone. Excuse me. Yeah, please use the microphone.
Sorry, hi, Christina Clem, I'm the treasurer for Fire District 4. So, for clarification, we don't have a contract for 2025. So we budgeted for a number, but we don't have a contract for that yet.
So it's not agreed to?
No.
Okay.
Because it has to go to the voters. With the 2024, we did pay that amount. That is actually the amount we paid last year.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, the number by the...
turn around again.
The number that we're using here with the... Let me just make sure I get the right thing. I've got 2 screens, so give me a second. This number at the bottom, $38,867.68. Is that a number you would agree to?
No, I can't agree to it because I'm the chairman. We don't make decisions ad hoc. I have to talk to the board. But again, I want to go back to how you're taking numbers out of our budget of salaries, of expenses that have to be, we can't function without those dollars. So how can we provide services to your township without that.
So I have a question.
Circular argument.
I have a related question on that point that you are just making. In case Fire District 4 was not there, would your budget be lower by any amount? In other words, if you have to just serve your people, would you be cutting the budget number down because Franklin is not there?
That's a rhetorical.
Wow, it's not rhetorical. There's a concept. Wait a minute. You seem to have a sarcastic way of addressing us. I would ask you to give us due respect, okay? There's a concept called incremental expense. If you are adding service to your department, how much are you adding incrementally to your expenses? That is the fair share that you should pass on to Franklin. If you are going to not add any incremental expense, your expense toward providing the service to Franklin is zero. The money that they are paying you is an added subsidy to your department.
So I'll answer the question. If we didn't have to service Franklin right now, that we pull that money out and we reduce the money we have to pay to our contractors for it, the fire company, et cetera. Our costs would go down.
So there'd be no negative impact to your
There would be
voters?
impact on our contractors.
Well, they would get less money
You
because they
would
do
have,
less.
no, you would have budgeted the money and it would have been the same, you would have set the same amount that you wanted. And you would have had the same levy. And it's just that it all would have been paid by South Brunswick citizens.
Right.
No, our service contractors would have less work to do. We would have less territory to cover. So we'd have to look at that.
What do your service contractors do?
They put fires out.
It's talking about the paid firefighters,
Put
Mayor.
fires out. We have contractors do hose. We have paid we have paid firefighters.
And they charge you by the square foot, by the assessed value?
Our contract.
You're paying them to be there for a certain amount of time.
Correct.
And would you have fewer of them there if you didn't have Franklin?
We'd have fewer calls, yeah, Frank. So
But
less
would
work.
you have fewer people that you would hire?
On the paid staff, though, and the volunteers, it's immaterial.
So no, is what you just told me, is you'd have the same expense. You would just have to divide it up differently amongst South Brunswick people. All we're asking, or saying, is that it should be divided up fairly. Make this all one community and divide that up fairly between the communities. Assess values is one way to do it. You might want to do it by length of road, or I don't know what else you might want to do, but you're going to do it by assessed value, then the fair way to do it is to use the balanced fair assessed value and make it fair to everyone.
So could I just ask a question? Then what's the role of the Franklin Fire District? We sat down with them in good faith, negotiated in good faith.
And the voters said
I'm
no.
just let me finish. And now
Let
you're
them answer.
negotiating with the township on something that they negotiated in good faith.
Because the
Voters said-
voters turned it down.
The voters turned it down, and then it becomes our
so what do you think that we're
responsibility.
supposed to do? Just vote for
What
the
you did
same.
is you took their methodology that they negotiated with us in good faith, and you tore it all apart and came up with this other formula. So what I'm saying is, it's not fair, right, to do that. It's just not fair to do that.
It's not fair to tax people on assessed values when you haven't assessed since 1987. That's why they have
That's
the
a fact.
equalized value chart. When you pay county taxes, you are adjusted that way, because how else could you do it between towns? So we are responsible to the public because they said no to the budget, and we're doing it the way we think is appropriate.
So just to maybe help in this closure, the challenge with our district and the Franklin district, this is not new. Franklin district was thinking of walking away and going to another services before, because we could come to an agreement. Personally, I live in the village, it's probably not good. However, I have to look at the South Brunswick taxpayers. And it comes to the point that is it sustainable going forward? right? We all know volunteer service, and for our district we spend more time on Franklin issues than we do on South Brunswick issues many times. So again, I can't speak for all the board members, but I think we have to figure out if number one, again, my concern, I can't speak for the board, I'll speak for myself, I don't think this is fair in the way this is structured, because we've negotiated in good faith and now we've moved the cheese, that's fine. I would rather the negotiation, but hey, we can't afford X, let's come up with the numbers negotiable versus trying to do some voodoo now.
I just want to ask a question. So when you said that you negotiated in good faith, when you provided the fire district your assessed value, did you give them the equalized assessed value or your regular assessed value?
We both sat down and used our both regular assessed values.
Okay, here's I'll give you this because I understand this, good faith. If you give the other side in a negotiation faulty information and then they reach an agreement based upon the faulty information, that's not good faith negotiating. So in all due respect, you can't do that. If you give them a budget that shows $150,000 in capital improvement, but there's really only 75, and you give them and you say our assessed value is $700,000 when it's really 1.6 billion, that's not good faith negotiation. In fact, you know what that's called? I'll give you free legal advice. It's called mutual mistake. Those contracts are not enforceable. If you started off with sitting at the table with bad numbers, they're just bad numbers. So whatever happened as a result of it, it's not an enforceable number. But what happened here is that the taxpayers rejected it. Now we're sitting at the table. By the way, in case you don't know it, you're in another negotiation. Except we actually know what the real numbers are. So when we look at it, we think the logical way to do it is to apportion it based upon the assessed value, which is, by the way fire districts do it all over the state. It's not unusual. I know that. I think my firm represents 70 municipalities, I think. So I understand how it's done. So that's a logical way to do it. So there's other ways, as the mayor said, you could do it by the length of roads or the number of calls, but that's a logical way to do it. And what we're telling you, and when I tell you you're in a negotiation, you really are, because we have to strike that budget. And when we look at it, we say, gee, it really should be 95.5 and not 90-10. And that's all that's happening here. And what I'm telling you is that if you went to the table and you were both mistakenly believing that you had correct assessment information, you were wrong, because you didn't.
So I need to move this along a bit. What we're gonna do is you're gonna make a final statement, and then we're gonna go to public comment.
Mr. Mayor, may I heard that Councilman Petesnik was asking a question that how much your numbers are. You said much less than 75, and he was trying to look at that number and tell us what your number is. We never heard that answer.
I don't have that right in front of me. I've been looking for it, but
I think we came up with a slight increase over the last year's budget. We did a slight increase over the last year.
So how much, last year was 50-something?
27%.
No, 50, last year was 58,000. 58,000?
It was 59, change.
59? Okay, so that's a number at least we know.
But there's a key part, just one point. In our contract, there's things about additional costs.
He doesn't know.
There's a cost that might be there that has to be borne by Franklin.
All right, I want you to see something.
It could be in excess of $50,000 to $100,000.
You see this
These
document?
radios cost
This was
$15,000
provided to
each.
Franklin Township Fire District.
So
for
when that happens in this contract, who is going to pay for that? Now, if you don't have radios and fires go in buildings.
Excuse me, Mr. Vornlocker, Mr. Vornlocker, turn off your mic, please. Thank you.
I was liking hearing that. That's one thing that in this that we've been trying to figure out, that there are liabilities that are, if you want to go line to line, specific to Franklin, not to South Brunswick, that to put a radio in the chiefs here, you can tell it could cost $100,000 or $15,000 a radio, per radio. So who's going to bear those costs? They're not, we can buy 4 radios with this contract. We can't even put 1 radio in a truck under this contract.
So,
No,
okay.
No, we're now going to public session.
Because we've been trying to get that question answered for 3 years, okay? 3 years.
So anyone who has a comment out there can come to the mic. but we're going to do 3 minutes.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service. I mean that sincerely. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. May come to the mic only to speak about the Fire District 4 budget failing, no other subjects. Anyone wishing to speak, same rules as before, but 3 minutes. You have to switch the screen.
Ed, you have to unplug.
Should I go to that one? Oh, no, hold on.
No, you're fine. No.
This is
The TVs need to have the counter.
Just hold 1 second, please.
I was gonna say 3 minutes is not gonna be enough.
I yield my time to.
Here we go.
There you go. You're on the clock.
Thanks. Andrea McFarland, 10 Laurel Ave, and the District 4 Franklin side. I don't know where to begin after that, but several things I wanted to raise. So the contract to District 4 commissioners, hopefully. The contract says in written, if you put in written notice that the 60-day extension does not apply. The voters hopefully have said that they want you to do that, and hopefully in writing you put that the contract will be terminated on March 31st. The state guidelines will protect us. Under the state mandates, the all fire companies will respond to any emergency in our district. So there is no worry that we will not be covered. Including Kingston Volunteer Fire Company will be responding, including the paid staff, because they're under the control of the chief who works for the fire company and not for the district. I think the district confirmed that they can't dictate who will respond. And all the chiefs will respond in all of the fire companies that surround us. So we're not worried that we won't have coverage if we don't have a contract. So hopefully that contract is put in writing that it is terminated. We don't want to pay even 2 months to them, especially after the show we just saw. The radios are to answer, I believe, Franklin calls. If they can provide services in Franklin, I think that they should have the equipment. I don't know if they're going to ask us to pay for their fire engines as well next time. I assume if they're providing fire services and firematics, they have all the equipment to be able to do that. So again, that should be part of their normal equipment that they buy if they want to provide those services, and not something that is 100% paid for by District 4. The math seemed very logical to me. Thank you. Mr. Potasnik, I think that was the first time in enlightenment. I also, my husband was the former chair of District 4. He is still a commissioner, but he was the former chair and resigned last year because of this from that position. So there have been no negotiations with District 3. I want to make that clear. I sat in the public meetings of all of the fire meetings. And was able to witness there were no negotiations. There were demands and there were tantrums thrown, but there were no negotiations. I think you saw that tonight as well. Let's see, where else was I? The valuation seems absolutely right. That's exactly what we were saying last year, and we couldn't get those numbers. We didn't know there was an equalization chart as the public. So I'm glad that there is, but we knew 100% that those numbers were wrong and the 10% was well overstated. So, I think going into it, the public definitely agrees with your numbers, and they seem basically what we came up with last year.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I guess I should talk to George Luck Jr., 7 Laurel Avenue. I'm here really as a taxpayer, but I've been concerned about the changes over the years between Franklin and South Brunswick. I can give you the whole history going back to 1980 when the two districts were formed, and that's where the 90-10 started. So it was back in the beginning of both fire districts, District 4 in Franklin and District 3 in South Brunswick, and that's at that time, and I'm sure they didn't do rateable charts, for the equalizer, but I know that they did look at the ratables on both sides. It was 90-10. There is no doubt that over the course of these years, that South Brunswick has grown immensely, and Franklin has basically been the same. And I could go through all the developments and all, but I won't take your time to do that. But looking at your numbers tonight, I can see that this has been unequal for the last few years. And I, as a resident of Franklin and as a member of the fire company in Kingston, I want the protection, and I want Kingston to come across the street. I can almost throw a stone to the firehouse from where I live. But the important thing is I want to pay my fair share. I don't want to be paying double or triple. I want to pay approximately within dollars exactly what my brother who lives right next to the firehouse in South Brunswick pays. That's what I want to pay. I think that is a fair agreement. That is the way the two boards always worked in the past, and I would hope they would work in the future. And as far as I'm concerned, this is at both boards, both District 4 and District 3. They need to communicate and talk with one another, not talk at each other and not talk and be demanded of from one or the other. They both need to sit down and negotiate and talk in good faith. If that's done, the village of Kingston is a beautiful town. And to be honest with you, most times we don't decide Franklin or South Brunswick. We just consider ourselves residents of the village of Kingston. And I consider that still. I grew up on the South Brunswick side, graduated from South Brunswick High School. We moved to Franklin, and both my children graduated from Franklin High School. But that's just the names of the high school. They were both all times Kingston residents, and I just encourage you to, I thank you for the work you've done, and I think that's the right way to move forward.
Anyone else? With all the talking in the audience and no one else, okay? Fine.
Close the motion, close the public portion.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Oh, great, come on up.
I just want, I was waiting for the timer.
That's okay, just your name and...
I'll be quick. Chris Chapatoni, I'm a South Brunswick resident. I am deputy chief in Kingston, right? So I just want to clarify for the public and the board that we are at 100% for responding to calls in the District 4, right? So from a fire protection standpoint, right, I want to rest assure the public that trucks are getting on the road and we are responding, right? I will make a comment that from a radio budget perspective, right, we have been hamstringed a little bit in terms of just kind of the mandate in terms of the radio changes and kind of updating software, right? So my concern, right, is necessarily if we terminate the contract just in terms of some of the response and things like that, right? I would, from an operational standpoint, have the board potentially just talk about providing us with mutual aid radios to be able to effectively respond, right? From a firefighter safety perspective, as we start to flash some of these older radios, we're running into some issues, right? So obviously I want to have a radio for every, operator or, firefighter on the scene, and if we were to terminate the contract, which I don't know if that's the move or not, right? It's not my decision. I would just want to make sure that we keep firefighter safety from a mutual aid perspective, in mind, right? So just don't want to hamstring the crew as they go out. But I appreciate the time. It's not very often you get to address the council, but thank you for it.
Anyone else?
No one else? Sure, okay. So then, yes, Mayor, I'll motion to close the public portion at this point.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Public session is closed. Council members, do we have comments?
I don't know if anybody has the numbers. I just had a couple questions. And for what it's worth, at the end of the day, this is really, I'm glad whoever was saying that, it's Kingston. Things get testy, but the councilman to my left here and the manager and the mayor, they don't play around with numbers. They're very, very good at that. I think what it was is, quite frankly, I'm assuming, give benefit of the doubt, that when South Brunswick did not realize about the I understand taxes, and every year we do evaluations and towns don't. So I don't think there was anything purposely on either side trying to manipulate, for what that's worth. So to bring it back to where I would like to see it move, or I think everyone would like to see it move, I think that they were going on numbers that gave an amount that they were comfortable with. but the numbers, what they were basing on was wrong. It sounds like there's items that they worry that are soft cost or costs that you can't quantify in 10% and all this. I don't know, and I wouldn't expect them to come up with a final number. I agree, we should pay the fair share. And these are a couple questions I have. Do we know, because again, this is all math, so it's easy, it's public information, what the percentage for a South Brunswick resident versus the percentage for the Kingston resident? I mean, I'm the Franklin resident, living literally in some cases feet away, so that we can get to where people are paying their fair share, which to me should be very similar, whether you live on one side of the street or the other side of the street. So I don't know if anybody has that math. It's on your tax bill. Everyone gets it.
Well, that's probably not easy to figure out, Councilman, because you'd have to go through the same exercise we went through, then you'd have to know what their tax rate was, and then you'd have to know the average.
So it'd be like a whole mathematical nightmare.
Correct.
So,
So,
go ahead.
Councilman, so picture this. The amount of tax paid, so picture there's a $500,000 house in Kingston on the Franklin Township side, and there's a $500,000 market value home on the South Brunswick
You're
side.
stealing my thunder. Go ahead.
Well, this is when I had this discussion with the assessor today about this very thing. If in fact, all things being equal, the person who lives in the house in South Brunswick would pay about $240,000 worth of tax based on the value of the home and based on the current assessments in South Brunswick at the rate that they are assessed. Their value of their $500,000 home for tax purposes is $240,000, whereas the value of the home in Franklin Township is $500,000. So they're paying a little bit more than twice as much in fire tax annually for the same market value home.
Yeah, essentially, I was going to say, if you sell your $500,000 home on one side and move to the other side and buying a $500,000 home, your tax should be the same. It shouldn't change.
And it's not.
Yeah.
Go. Mr. Wright, you haven't spoken. You wish to speak?
Well, you know, everyone throws in their little number there, and our counselor came out with something that I want to jump into. Mr. Reno?
Yes, sir.
Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, once again, my personal opinion is that it is a math exercise, and it's also my opinion is that they probably, I quickly looked at the agreements because they're online, and it's pretty clear to me that at some point in time, South Brunswick took out the assessed value formula, and it's pretty obvious why, because it got to a point where the numbers had gotten skewed, right? So they were just trying to negotiate a number that was more. And I also understand that they negotiated a number that was more than an assessed value ratio. But I think that this is the first time council's had a chance to take a look at it. And thank you, Mayor and Mr. Vornlacher, for answering Councilman Vassinella's question much easier. But that's the long and the short of it. I mean, for me, I would have had to understand the tax rates and all of those things to get precise numbers. But that's what the difference is. And the difference is that it appears that the Franklin side of this is just overpaying for the same value if you're going to do it based upon assessed value. And I think that's the way generally this is done, because, you know, it's firematic protection for property, and if the property in one side is valued at X and the other is valued at 2X.
And our assessor has said that exact same
Correct.
thing.
So that's generally the way it's kind of done. So So that having been said, it seems to me that seems to be the logical point of this. I understand that, you know, and I went to take a look at the contracts, and they have quote unquote negotiated numbers in them, but they're all subject to the budgets being approved. So if the budget's not, I don't know that you have it. I only saw a 2024 contract. I think somebody mentioned the fact that there is not a 2025 contract. So once once we approve the budget at the number that we think is reasonable, then the parties can sit down and decide whether or not they can reach an agreement at that number, and if they can't, they can't, right? And then everybody makes alternate arrangements. That's the long and the short. We're not talking about going back and changing. 2024 is 2024. It is what it is. But if there's going to be a contract in 2025, that contract in 2025 has to reflect what is, in our mind, an accurate number. And I think that from the council's point of view, from what we're hearing from the Franklin Fire District, that seems to be logically what the number should be, and then the parties can go and see whether or not they can reach an agreement or not. And I think that Councilman Rahm's question, which was a really good question, and we, you know, I say this, and I didn't mean to be pejorative, and I'm sorry if I seem to be, you know, snarky when I answered your question, but the fact of the matter is that you do one shared services contract, we do 50 of them a year. We actually know how to do this. We price them out all the time, right? We're gonna, you know, and I use South Brunswick because, you know, we might share an IT department with them, and we negotiate the way we do it. And it's got to be fair to both parties, because otherwise they'd be overpaying for a service that they could go out and get on their own. So we do understand how to do this, and I think that that's what Councilman Potasnik has laid out, and I think that it seems to me to be logically what happens is that the council now makes a decision based upon that math, and then we leave it. You know, the fire district will now know what their budget is, which is a good thing, and then the fire district in Franklin could sit down with the fire district in South Brunswick, and if there is a deal to be made, there's a deal to be made. If there's not, then there's not. But that seems to be, I think, where it is at this point in time. And that answers your question.
I just got one more little point there.
Sure.
That 10% just blew me out the water, because they kept throwing that thing back and forth at each other. And I kept trying to figure out, I understand Councilman Ed's, I understand that point, but I was trying to grab their point, and because they said it didn't matter.
Well, I think what they were saying is this, is that I think we were both saying, what both of us were saying was the same. What they said is, there's no 10% in the contract. I agree. There's no quote-unquote allocation in the contract. I agree with that too. But their contracts were very interesting, because they said in one paragraph, we shall allocate, and a couple of years later, the contract said, we shall negotiate. But then 3 paragraphs later, it said the number is $59,377.05. So it came to a number. What we were able to do when we looked at that number is back into, hey, we're paying 10% of the budget, because we know the number. And we're only 5% of the value. So all we did was, I understand you negotiated it. But the long and the short of it is that we now understand what the effect of that negotiation, and it appears on analysis that the Franklin Fire District was overpaying. Right? Mayor, I think, you know, not having been involved in anything before tonight, I think that pretty much seems to be where we are.
So, and I just, you know, just to go one step beyond, you know, when you talk about shared service agreements, it's kind of ironic that the township has a shared service agreement related to fire service, fire protection. And that shared service, we have a shared service with 3 of the 4 fire districts here in Franklin Township, Fire District 4 being one of them. And the method by which we determine annually the cost of that shared service agreement and how it is divided is by the ratables of each individual fire district. And so that shared service agreement is, I want to say, about $90,000 or $100,000 a year, of which Fire District 4 is responsible for $1,200, because the ratables in District 4 are, as we've said, about $989 million. And I think the next smallest fire district in Franklin is about $2.5 billion. So that's why the share is so small. Sure. So it is a very common method, but it is also a percentage that's calculated annually based on our annual assessments.
That one question.
Yes, sir.
Where 101% value?
In 2024, which is what the calculations for the 2025 budget would have been utilized, because fire district budgets get elected in February, so they used the 2024 numbers. In 2024, our county equalized assessments were at about 101.5%.
That's a yes.
Yes, and so we took that number and made it 100%.
Okay.
And then the South Brunswick ratables were at, and I don't have it right in front of me, what was it? 37.42 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
36.5. But anyway, go ahead.
Right, and we did the math to get them to 100%. And then we utilized those numbers to calculate the percentage of the whole for each municipality.
Okay, see, I kept mixing that up, and I thank you for it, because I wanted to make sure we were doing apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
Exactly.
And not monkeying around with their 35%, our 100%.
No.
We got to figure stuff out.
Anyone else?
So I thank you for that, and I thank a counselor for giving me that legalese, and I'm rolling now. Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken? All right, my final thing that I wanted to say was, I heard about the radios a lot. If the radios are costing a lot, and Franklin benefits from the radios, then next year, put that as part of a shared expense. That's the simple answer to it. They want to pay their fair share. Just put it as part of the expense.
Mr. Mayor, I want to say that was one of my little questions here. I wrote it down about the radios. What's the story with them? And you asked that question, and I thank you for it.
All right, so if there's no other discussion, I present Resolution 25098, introduction of the calendar year 2025 Hamilton Street Special Improvement. Oh,
No.
Jesus.
I wish we were there.
I'm sorry.
Now we need a resolution setting the fire department budget, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
25099. Wait, before you do, can I have the number to put in the resolution?
Do I need to make a motion?
I was going to ask him that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to make a
Probably ask a
motion.
motion, yeah.
So the number is $48,573.66.
All right, so I'll try again. I present Resolution 25099, setting the annual budget for Fire District Number 4 pursuant to NJSA 40A 14-78.5 and NJSA 40A 14-79 to the Township Council for their consideration with the aforementioned value. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I painfully ask, any further discussion? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Barrison?
Yes.
I'm guessing it's this one here. Which one? Not that one. All right,
No, it's still going. Okay. Councilman Karazi?
Yeah.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Petosnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Udine?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
yes. And Mr. Mayor, if I could just say one thing.
Are you, is your mic on?
If I can just say one thing, I think sometimes we oversimplify things. We should not do that. Because sometimes people are going to get lost. And everyone had their own ideas and got lost swimming. And I think that our attorney spelled it out good at one shot. One shot, he spelled it out good. Now, township manager spelled it out, the one with the guy I sit next to, Councilman Ed. But I just want everyone to know in TV land, if you are confused at any particular point, if you are confused, see that guy at the end and have him explain it to you bit by bit if you are confused in anything that we just did.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Because you're paying for it.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
I'm just letting them know.
All right. Madam Clerk.
I think council comments, huh?
Yeah, council comments? Oh, God. Oh.
It's been a long. I'm not going to skip council comment. Oh, I can't.
That's interesting.
Can I move we dispense of council comments?
So we have a motion to dispense. Do we
That's
have a
me.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone dare say no? No council comments.
Let me send this to myself.
Mr. Manager, was there anything vital that you needed to report on? Mr. Manager, was there anything vital you needed to report on?
I have nothing. Actually, I was digging for something, and now I don't even want to dig anymore.
All right. We're on to item number 11, approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes to the Township Council for their approval. Work session regular meeting February 11th and work session regular meeting February 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone want to change an item? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Batosnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
And if the camera can do a close-up here, I just want them to see that they look very much the same.
Both written in English.
Oh. Okay. Approval of the warrants in the amount of $4,508,807.59 on March 11th are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion on the warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item, change an item? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Batosnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
And now, calendar year 2025 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District budget. I present the budget, introduction of 2025 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District, and set public hearing date of April 8th, 2025 to the Township Council for their consideration. Do I have a motion?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Dominic
Ask something.
has nothing to say. Okay, any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Batosnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Item number 15, we already did number 14, public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. There are none. Ordinances on introduction on first reading. Ordinance 4459-25. Sorry. An ordinance to vacate existing emergency vehicle and utility easement and accept an emergency access and utility easement agreement between EWA Somerset 400 owner LLC and the Township of Franklin for the premises known as Block 468.01, Lot 21.15, Atrium Drive. The following ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, at 7 PM in the Township Council chambers. Do we have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think it's pretty self-explanatory by title. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Potasnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 4460-25, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 115, Dogs and Other Animals, adding Article 6, Backyard Chicken Flocks. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption, first reading and posting and publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption at the meeting of the Township Council to be held on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, at 7 PM in the council chambers. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Well, this is Ed Potasnik night. Since you introduced this ordinance, why don't you explain it?
This ordinance allows property owners with a quarter acre or more to start a backyard chicken flock of just hens, no roosters, which is great entertainment, as we heard earlier. But in addition, they also take a lot of food scraps and waste, which versus our waste, and we also get eggs and meat from them. So it's been years in the making. With egg prices the way they are, more and more folks are looking at this, and I think would be doing it without it being official. This is a nice way to make sure they do it safely, as we heard from the health chair, and in a way that conforms and also protects neighbors. So I'm very pleased to have it up tonight. Thank you all.
So that's R15 that we allow down to?
10.
R10.
And then, yeah, it's different. We have 2 at 10, and then a little bit more as you have more property.
So just as a point of reference, Princeton and Dunellen allow it down to R5, so half the size lots. And they allow 2 chickens at that level. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, first of all, thank you so much, Councilman. This has been a great thing, and I grew up with chickens, so I know it's a lot of fun. And I was looking forward to have a couple of my grandchildren in Warren. They have 8 of them, and every time they come and they talk about how much fun they have with their chickens, and I'm looking forward to have a couple in my property, hopefully. But there's one thing that I'd like to suggest as an amendment, actually. Honestly, I really don't think it's necessary for us to ask the resident to do the annual renewal. So what I'd like to suggest that we have a one-time $25 fee for a permit application and with no renewal as an amendment for
So
this.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think the reason for, if anyone have any discussion? No. I think the reason for renewal is to keep track of these birds so that if, as it was brought up earlier, bird flu or some other equal problem were to come up, they know where to go to inspect or to do whatever they need to do. So it's a way of keeping track of them.
I would say sort of worst case scenario, we have a list of where the chickens are supposed to be, and we go somewhere and they're not there, right? If someone started it and 5 years later they didn't have it anymore, that would maybe be the downside of having it be a permanent sort of thing. But every year it does seem like a lot. So maybe we could be a one-time fee and a 5-year application, but then people are going to forget in 5 years. We're going to have to send them a letter.
And that's why you do it every year, just like a dog license, which is no different. And so that came from the recommendations from the University of Maryland Extension for ordinances related to backyard chicken flocks, is that because of like what we're in right now, an avian flu, so that when you need to know where those chickens are in short order, you have updated licensing annually so that you can now know where you need to go, and you're not chasing around something that, remember this, we're talking in short term, right, over the next couple years, but when it's 30 years from now, and we have a list that somebody had chickens 25 years ago, and we're starting to go now, and you're going to start looking for things that no longer exist as opposed to an annual permit. And if you do a one-time initial at whatever the rate is that you decide, and you do every other year after that, there's no cost, or you want to make it $25 initial and $5 a year after that, whatever it is. But there's a reason why you want to be able to keep track of where you have chicken flocks, and it's primarily related to disease outbreaks.
So what about if we, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, what about if we ask the people if they got rid of their chickens, they can just let the township know?
Now you're relying on someone to do something that they're not going to do.
And the permit, they're not going to
So
apply
I'm
either.
telling you that having done law enforcement for 27 years, you're asking people to do something that they're not going to do. Because what's the penalty if they don't? There is none.
The same thing for the permit.
If they don't get a permit, there is a penalty. The ordinance has the general penalty for violating the ordinance. So if they don't get their permit renewed, they're in violation and they're subject to a summons. But if you just blindly accept the fact that people are going to say, well, I don't have chickens anymore, I'll notify the town that I don't, they're not going to do that.
We can make it an online form.
I mean, all our forms are pretty much online now.
So it's pretty easy to do.
Would we send out a letter or an email?
I just, to me, it's just we asking community again, do paperwork, bureaucracy.
Like I said, you have to get a dog license.
Warren Township, we don't, I have never seen they asking for additional permit, just one time, that's it. And so I just don't
And Councilman, I just used the dog license as the example. The state of New Jersey requires dogs be licensed annually. And you have to go pay for a dog license. And chickens and the reason why we license dogs is to ensure that they're inoculated against things like rabies. And chickens are susceptible to disease as well. And so the reason why you require that dog to be licensed is the same reason you would require your backyard flock to be licensed. So that A, we know where they are, and B, when there's an issue related to them, whether one escapes or when there's an outbreak of disease, you know where to go find them. That's the reason why.
I agree, it's a health issue.
So just a point of clarification, so that one-time $25 and no renewal, if we amended that and said annual renewal, would they get a notice, like an email or a letter that said go online and just check the box that you still have them or update the number or whatever
Well, it'd be whatever you decide to do. I mean, so none of this was ever given any consideration because, as you recall, as a result of the committee meeting that generated this this final version of the ordinance, the recommendation out of committee was that there be no fee. So if there's no fee, then there would be no registration, right? I mean, that was there was no fee involved in this process. So now there's a fee, so we're going to have to follow up, right? We're going to need to do what it is. But there's no reason why we can't notify. Anne-Marie, do we notify people when their dog licenses are due?
Yes.
There's the answer. So there's the answer. I would equate it to no different than a dog license in that the people would get a notice. If they when they initially provide the registration, if they provide an email address in that registration, they can get an annual email.
Okay.
If they just provide a snail mail address, they would get something in the mail.
I think I'm supporting what he said.
Well, he's saying that one-time $25, never again.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the amendment.
$25.
They do it once, and then they don't have to register each year.
No.
But Bob's saying, so maybe we amend it and say one-time $25 and then annual free
Yeah, that's
after.
what Bob said. I'm supporting what Bob said.
The ordinance that's in the packet still says no fee.
Correct, because this was just an amendment to the original ordinance that was a motion to amend,
So
wasn't
my
there?
amendment
No,
was.
I'm talking about the ordinance that I'm reading that was in the packet
Right.
tonight.
We
It
had a-
says that there is no fee.
He made a
That's
motion
correct.
on an amendment.
And someone just made a motion to amend that ordinance that's in the packet.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, I thought you had said that originally it was.
No,
Now,
when the,
Can I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
My amendment was $25 fee and no renewal. If we're going to go to renewal, I will withdraw my amendment.
So,
Okay, I would make a motion that it's $25, the initial fee, and that you have to, whatever the technical term is, register each year, then there's no fee involved. And I just want to clear with the lawyer, that's my motion, that, Lou, if somebody built another coop or tore down that coop and built another one because they're getting more chickens, that would be considered needed for a new permit.
No, you're not licensing the building of chicken coops. You're licensing the having chickens on your property. So if you have 2 chickens and you paid a fee, you could build a big coop, a small coop, tear it down.
And then yearly, we would know because they'd register. So I'm going to leave it as stands, $25. We do yearly so we can keep track, but at no fee encumbered by the, what is the right word? No, I meant.
Flock.
Flock holders. Okay, that would be my motion.
is there a second?
Seconded.
Anne Marie, do you understand the motion?
$25 for the initial fee, and the renewal is free.
Correct.
Annual
That's it.
renewal,
Annual renewal.
that's free.
Right.
it's obviously Anne Marie's microphone, Councilman Wright, not yours.
And any discussion, further discussion? What about, anyone want to discuss chicken coops in Fire District 2?
Mayor, I think we had a
Okay.
lengthy discussion.
So we're going to vote on the motion.
Only if they split it 90-10.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
I'll pass.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onichaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Botasnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Udine?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Mr. Karazi passed. That means we go back to him.
Councilman Karazi?
If you want to abstain, then,
Or vote no.
I'll abstain.
okay. That's the amendment. Does anyone have further discussion on the ordinance? Thank God. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onichaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Potasnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Udine?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Come on.
All right, let me see if I can get to the right place in the agenda. Consent agenda, items A through, is that an I or an L? L. As listed in the consent agenda portion of this meeting are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, and anyone like to pull an item?
Yes, sir. One little item, and it takes 30 seconds. J, Resolution 25109, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is so the township residents know exactly what this was. So,
So does anyone else know what it is? Because I do.
Do you want to read it?
Do you want me to tell you what it is, or do you want someone else to tell you what it is?
tell me what it is.
So J is a resolution accepting the grant that's received annually from the Governor's Council on Substance Use Disorder by the Franklin Municipal Alliance Program for $8,852 for the Municipal Alliance to use those funds in furtherance of drug and alcohol abuse education.
So now, is that at a particular group, or is just?
The Municipal Alliance is a committee that you as the council appoint and it's the Municipal Alliance Against Drug Abuse. And it's every municipality in the county, and likewise, I believe every municipality in the state has a municipal alliance, and their funding comes through that governor's council and then filters through the counties and their the county alliance, for lack of a better term, the county office on drug abuse, to utilize those funds for drug and alcohol abuse education. So that's what it is. It's accepting that grant.
Anyone else have an item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Embarrasson?
Yes.
Councilman Karazi?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Potosnik?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Redine? Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Item 18, resolutions to be voted on separately. There are none. Item 19, old business, boards, committees, commissions. Does anyone have any nominations?
I have one nomination, Mayor.
Yes.
Claudette Lattimore as a Hamilton Street Advisory Board member, filling the one of two long-standing resident category openings.
100% residential membership, unexpired, 3-year term ending.
Well, I would just give the full term.
Well, you have a choice of ending 2026 or 2027.
My understanding, she's looking very forward to serving for as long as they'll have her, so I would let it fill the position ending in 2027.
Okay. Any other nominations for that position?
Oh, no.
Any other nominations for any other positions? We can do this by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Congratulations. There's no executive session. Who wants to adjourn? Say aye.
So moved.
Opposed, say nay. Be well, Franklin. Take care of your chickens.